What are some of the negative impacts that you've had throughout like your freshman to senior year in high school?
Oh God. Okay. So I thought it would be a lot more easier for me to go to NCSSM and get more opportunities than Trask because when you're in a smaller school, you don't get a lot of opportunities and you're not um, the best you can be compared to other students who have had more opportunities. So I took a rigorous schedule of 11 classes my sophomore year, and it was absolutely crazy. I was stressed, I had horrible anxiety, and I was getting very depressed because 11 classes in 1 year is a lot. And so after that, I found out I didn't get into NCSSM. And by the time I had horrible family trouble as well, and where I had to talk to DSS on a daily basis, wouldn't go to school, and it was just completely awful because not only did I have work piling up from classes that I didn't need, I also had a horrible family life, and it was very depressing.
In regards to like the high school teachers, do you think that like you actually learned what they were teaching you, or you think that they just like taught you the way that they did just to pass?
Okay. I feel like, as a whole, the teachers I've had, the vast majority of them, there are a few exceptions, but the vast majority of them, they only teach you just to pass like the end of their class test or like the AP exam or something like that. You don't really feel like you're learning anything, like any skills that are going to matter after high school. It's just basically like robotics, like just they teach the same thing to every single person just long enough so that they can pass a test or pass their class, so it makes them look good, and then you're just finished. After that, you don't really remember much. I know I don't remember much from a lot of the classes I've had because I didn't really learn. I was just like taught just that small amount of, required material just to pass their test, and that's about it.
What are some of the negative things that have impacted you throughout your freshman to senior year of high school?
The course load, ever since I was a freshman, has been extremely heavy, and it's definitely negatively impacted me because the way teachers are, they feel as though you don't have any other classes other than their own. So they give you this huge amount of coursework and only a little bit of time to do it, and it makes it really stressful, and you start getting anxious, especially when you're an overachiever like myself, like a perfectionist, and it's just not fair. Especially with trying to manage like a job and a social life and all of that combined with the course load, it's very hard.
In your time as a high school principal slash vice principal, did you ever notice teachers treating certain students unfairly and treating other students better than others?
I did. And especially as my time as a principal, I thought that, and maybe it's because high school students are bigger, they're more grown, physically they're mature, and often I think that they, by some teachers, would be treated, maybe like a full-grown adult mentally, and while physically they are mature, they're not. They're almost young, sometimes minds stuck in full-grown bodies, and so anyway, teachers I think would sometimes students that were easy to love, easy to deal with, I think would often, be embraced by the teachers. Students that struggled to fit in, students that were resistant, students that came with their issues and were a little bit more difficult and messy, then sometimes at the high school level they were left to their own devices, when what should have happened is that all the school's resources, from the counselors to the mental health folks inside the school to all hands on deck, all of those resources should be exhausted before we ever give up on a student. And sometimes I think at the high school level that happens way too early.
If there was something you could change about the way high school works, as someone who was an authority figure and around the environment and students daily, what would you try to change to make it more successful or more better environment, better place for them to learn?
I think in all of the world, and school's certainly no exception, it comes down at the end of the day to relationships. Whatever we can do to bolster support around relationship building, from teachers to teachers, teachers to students, students to students, whatever we could do to really foster good relationships. Often what happens, I think, is that students come into school from a very young age, naturally excited about learning, and they love learning, and over time, over variables, over life, they lose that hope and they lose that enthusiasm. It's the job of a high school staff collectively to make sure that you're providing those safeguards so folks don't fall through the cracks, and that you're providing hope for those that have lost it along the way. And I think the best way to do that is to show them how much you care about them. Even if they're from the perfect family, or if they're messy, if they bring with them baggage. I think the teachers, the staff, the counselors, all of the body that collectively make up a staff of a high school have to be on the same page about properly loving students, to make school for them a safe haven of hope and opportunity. These days, I don't think that's happening enough at the high school level. High schools, especially large ones, are a microcosm of our society, and the least and the lost of our society often, I don't think, get a real fair shot, and the least and the lost of students in a high school, they don't get a real fair shot either. And it's often because I think the adults in the situation do treat them differently, don't set high enough expectations, and ultimately provide a scenario where students lose hope.